Let us now talk about the post office, because the former sub-postmaster, Alan Bates, who led the campaign for justice in the Post Office Horizon scandal, has said he will reject an offer of compensation from the government that he calls offensive and cruel, amounting to around a sixth of what he actually requested. But he's just one of over 900 sub-postmasters who were prosecuted. I want to now hear from Janet Skinner, who was imprisoned for 9 months and, despite having her conviction quashed, is still fighting for justice. Good evening, Janet, and thank you very much for joining us here at the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. This is such a terrible story. I don't know really where to begin with you, but you were presumably one of those who was convinced by the Post Office and their lawyers that you should plead guilty to something you hadn't done, serve a sentence for something you hadn't done, come out after that, only to be told, well, now you're innocent, but you don't get any compensation.
It's not that I haven't had any compensation, it's just that my claim isn't actually at that level of where I can put the full claim in yet.
Right.
There's a lot of to and fro in. They scrutinise everything that you claim in the scrutinising.
Yes, and that's the problem. So when you were imprisoned, what was it that you had been found guilty of, or that you had pleaded guilty to?
No, I didn't. I was advised to take a guilty plea for false accounting,
Right.
and the post office would drop the theft,
right.
to prevent a custodial sentence. But I was actually 2nd of February. It's actually 17 years tomorrow that I was actually given a 9-month custodial sentence.
Right, and that must have been a shock if they told you that you would have avoided that.
Well, a shock that it's beyond words, really. I think my whole life just crumbled into pieces there and then. I mean, a lot of it in that particular day, I don't remember. There's a lot that I don't really remember. I'll use the favourite words of what the post office witnesses are saying. I don't recall.
Yeah.
But a lot of it I don't really recall that day. I only remember bits of that day. And it's because emotionally I was just a mess.
Yeah, I'm sure. And how long were you in prison for?
So I got a 9-month custodial sentence. I was sent on the 2nd of February. I was released on the 12th of April, but I had to spend the rest of it on home curfew. So I had one of those big black ankle tags on.
Right. Yeah, so every time you went out, if you did go out, everybody could see that and presumably thought you were some kind of criminal.
Well, yeah, he did. Well, to be honest, I wore jeans all the time and boots so that nobody could see it. One of them I couldn't fasten up, obviously because of the tag.
Yeah.
But I had like a 6 till 6 curfew, so I had to be in between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. I wasn't allowed out the house, and I mean not even out to put a bin out or anything. You had to stay indoors.
Unbelievable. And how long was it from the moment, we're talking 17 years has been going on, right? So how long from the moment you were released to the moment they came to you and said, we think we got it wrong?
They didn't come to me and say, we think we've got it wrong. It was quite the opposite. I joined the Justice for Sub-Post Office Alliance, the group litigation, back end of 2011 into 2012, went through the mediation scheme with the post office, who basically said that I had no case to answer, although I'd been recommended for mediation.
Right.
And then we had the group litigation in 2019. So, I mean, I was like 5 years before I even knew that it was happening to other people.
Yeah. And what have you been doing? How have you been keeping yourself sane, and how have you been able to keep it together? Did you get another job? How did that all work?
No, unfortunately for me, the following year in 2008, I'd gone through numerous court cases again, because I hadn't paid the compensation to the post office. And there was basically looking at sending me back to prison for 5 years. So I had to answer to a warrant and was handcuffed and stuck in cells for the day. I had to fight my case in the court that day, which concluded in August of 2008. And 2 weeks later, I ended up in hospital with fluid on my spinal cord. My immune system was low and it attacked itself basically.
Right.
And it left me paralysed from the neck down. They said I'd never walk again, but I've learnt to. And now I just, I have issues, mobility issues.
Right. What a terrible story. And you say you've had some compensation. Was that part of the 2018 lot?
No, well, I mean, we got a small amount from that, but we was actually excluded.
Right.
Everybody who had a criminal conviction was excluded from the group litigation settlement. The post office didn't believe that we deserved compensating because we had criminal convictions. So any decisions that I made towards a group litigation now, we're still probably excluded anyway because
Right.
of the fact that we was excluded when the deal was made.
Right. And I mean, as far as Alan Bates and his campaign is concerned, I mean, obviously he was the name that everybody thought of when the show was made, Alan Bates versus the Post Office.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any contact with him at all, or with anybody else who's having this problem?
I haven't spoken to Alan Bates since probably 2018.
Right.
I've had no dealings with him whatsoever, not even to the end of the group litigation settlement. I mean, that I actually found out on the BBC News. But no, I don't. I speak to other people that have been part of the group, and I've made some really good friends. But Alan's not one that I keep in touch with.
No. And what are you hoping for? I mean, have you heard anything about what might be being offered to you at some point soon?
No, I haven't. I mean, the full amount, the full figure isn't actually being calculated as of yet. It's still being put together. But I'm just leaving it in the hands of my legal team. I've got a very good, strong legal team, so I'm just what I know that they will do what's right for me. So
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck, and I hope they do. Let's hope they don't keep half of it as well, because that's unfortunately what tends to happen. Is a lot of the lawyers keep a lot of the fees.
I'm more than that you're gonna. Yeah, I'm more than that you're gonna have a fight just like everybody else. Nothing's ever been given easy. We've had to fight every single step of the way. So another fight really ain't gonna do me any injustice, is it?
No, I know. Terrible. Janet, thank you very much for talking to us. Appreciate it. Janet Skinner there, a post office victim.
That's right, thank you.
And not somebody that you may have heard of before, but there's so many of them. And it's going to go on for a long time, this. It's absolutely ridiculous. We'll keep bringing it to you.